Hi, this is Taylor Barton, and you're listening to Retrospectives with John Broughton on KC Radio 97.7 FM.
Just to start, do you have an earliest memory of music playing an important part in your life?
Yes, my earliest memory is sharing many a night with my father, who used to come home from the office and put on either Ella Fitzgerald or Nat King Cole, or there was Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass, and he was sort of my introduction to just music itself before I moved into more modern music, from my generation. But that was my earliest experience, was my father's love for music infected my love.
I believe, though, at one stage there might have been a different career path for you. We might now be speaking to Taylor Barton, tennis champion.
That is correct. I was on my way to being a tennis star in my earlier teenage life, and I played in tournaments with people like John McEnroe before he hit really big, and there was sort of a middle Atlantic region that I sort of took over when I was young, and I quit for boys and music. Due to my father's dismay.
So when did songwriting become a passion of yours?
Well, I think I was writing songs before I knew I was writing songs. I was writing lyrics as a young teenager. At the same time, when I was quitting tennis, I started writing poems, and I was sort of shy about it. I would hide them in my room and hide them from public, but I would often bring them out and read them to a couple of friends, and or just sing songs like Neil Young songs. I remember singing Ohio or Fleetwood Mac songs, and then sort of imagining my poems sort of following suit. But I didn't really pick up the musical melody until much later. I came to New York as a theater dancer and singer, and learned a lot of songs before I actually started putting melody to my own poems. So I think I was also incredibly influenced by some of the great Broadway writers.
Looking back, do you think, can you pinpoint something that, a uniform quality, I guess, that linked all the artists and songwriters that were inspiring you?
I liked that they told their truth through their lyrics. It was the confessional tone of the songwriter that really got me hooked. Again, I bring up Neil Young or Joni Mitchell or people like that. I used to put records on when I would be falling asleep as a teenager too, and to me it was like a Bible. I figured, their experiences were being told out through melody, and I really identified with it.
Now, your husband, G.E. Smith, plays an important role in your music. It must be wonderful to have such a talented musician so close at hand to bounce ideas off.
Absolutely. There's many. In fact, he lays out a lot of riffs that he'll just be playing and literally forget about with the second he's playing it. And I run after him with one of these dictaphones. I'm like, oh, that was amazing, and he just sort of scuff it off. And a few of the songs that I've written, especially earlier on in my earlier CD releases, were melodies that he just kind of left on the table. And I wrote lyrics to. But he certainly can put a incredible foundation to something that might really have sounded pretty lame without his backbone. But he has taught me a lot, though, about just really continually to work with the melody and not just sort of give it up to a cliche melody. And I would say to him, too, you got to keep working for the lyric that is the right word, not just the one that rhymes.
I believe you also had a key role in really developing your confidence as a songwriter too.
Absolutely. He was my main fan. He was, just get up and do it. He brought me out initially. I opened for a lot of shows with him, and I had severe stage fright when I first kind of came out with my own songs, and was much more comfortable with other people singing them than it being me. But he just got me up there. He put the guitar in my hand, and, he's like, you know what? Just practice a couple of chords while you're watching TV. You'll have this down in 10 years. And I did. Not like him, though.
Just talking about your songwriting in general, is the path from the initial thought for the song to the finished product pretty much the same for you from song to song, or is it a different process with each song?
It's always different. I mean, I might write lyrics and then write a melody around it, or I might hear a melody and write lyrics to it, or I might see a truck drive by with a phrase on it that will, all of a sudden will be the seed of a whole new theme for a whole collection of songs. I've said this before, and I feel strongly that for me, this is what inspires me. Often I'll either read a novel or I'll listen to somebody else's CD or record or, now iTunes, and the singer will pose a question in their song, and I'll go and write an answer to it. So I get very inspired by other people's work, and that starts me. That's the genesis of the beginning of a song for me.
Right, so your songwriting radar is up at all times.
Yep, and some artists refuse to listen to anybody else. They don't want to hear anybody else. They can't possibly let, other people's artistry into their creative process, but I'm the opposite. And I feel, first of all, I feel songs have all been written before for, ages. So I feel that it's just, it's what am I trying to say? It's just another way of regrouping an idea.
Yeah. I get the impression you're someone who thrives on being busy. There are many strings to your bow. It's not just all about the music. Have you mastered the art of time management?
Time management? I'm the queen of improv. That's my time management. When I have a second, I do start working on whatever I can. The song is the greatest because you can bang out a verse or a chorus, in 5 minutes. I have an 8-year-old daughter, so I don't have a lot of time to mess with my creative work. I set aside like a couple hours, 3 hours a day, and in that time, I'm either working on a song, working on practicing the guitar, working on practicing my voice. Right now I'm writing a one-woman show. I've written novels, but I take about 3 or 4 mornings a week and I work on my creative process in one way or another. And then I'm a mom. Or a wife.
Or a wife, yeah. Is there a heavy editing process in your writing?
Yeah, there is, because there's always the first draft, and then the first draft is the idea of what I'd like to say, and then when you start to put it to music, you start to get rid of words that just aren't working with the phrasing, and the music might lend another idea, like, throw out that line and sing this instead. So yeah, I think there's a huge editing process, and then when you bring it in to record it, you're going through another edit, because then you can start cutting and pasting ideas from the original idea and, put, for instance, a chorus in a certain part of the song and then loop it somewhere else, or you can invert it, and so there's always an editing process. I mean, there's some gems of songs that you might write from the beginning that come out exactly the same way you did it the first time, but the majority, there's a lot of work that goes on between writing it and recording it.
Tell us about your work in promotions and public relations. That's another area that you've been involved.
Yes, I'm currently actually working right now in that area for another artist friend of mine, David Broza, who is released a record on the unpublished lyrics of Townes Van Zandt. PR work and promotional work that I do for other artists that I really love and, I feel passionate about, because any PR or marketing that you do have to feel, strongly connected to the material to convince somebody else, especially these days, to play it or pay attention to it. So the last 7 months, I've been working on this record that I executive produced with GE, and it came out here in the States under S-Curve Records, and it's a really beautiful record. Townes Van Zandt, I don't know if you're aware of, but he's a major singer-songwriter who passed away in 97, and so he left these unpublished lyrics, and this friend of ours wrote melodies, and he lives in Israel, and then he came here and G and I produced it, and it's out, so I'm working that right now.
Oh, that's fantastic. It sounds like a similar type of thing to what Billy Bragg did with the Woody Guthrie
Exactly,
material.
it's exactly that.
Oh, that's tremendous.
Yes.
A couple of other projects I know you worked on, which you're extremely proud of, are the Songs for Life charity CD and the Prelude to Peace concert. Can you tell us a bit about those?
Yes, in fact, that was how I met David Broza, so that's an interesting segue. I was working on a compilation for the proceeds of that particular Songs for Life, which had artists like Britney Spears and Paul Simon, and they were raising money for all of the sub-Saharan countries in Africa that were suffering with the AIDS epidemic. And we particularly were serving the King of Swaziland, who was a part of that effort, and the UN. And in that particular time, this fella David Broza came in, who was from Israel and was starting to make a concert called Prelude to Peace, which was to bring peace to the Middle East through music. And we worked on that for a great deal. So that is an ongoing process over there in the Middle East. And so that was what's happening.
You set up your own record label, which has been in operation for many years now. And I guess for your music career, you haven't had to deal with being under the control of a corporate label. It must be a great feeling to have that freedom over your creative output from the get-go.
It is. It's so great, and especially now where really it is not necessary to have a record label anymore because of, what happened with the digital world. I mean, if you have a huge machine to work your music, then yes, maybe you need a record label. But really, we know how to do all the ins and outs of what record labels do, except I think even better because we're focused. And we're the same people. There hasn't been any turnover since 92. So there's a lot to be said for that. And we've, certainly never had the huge successes of huge artists in monetary forms, but we've had some great success.
Also known as a playwright, and to you as a writer, what do you find more personally satisfying? Getting your message out there condensed into a 3-4 minute song, or watching the audience respond to your piece of theatre?
Oh God, that's a hard question. I think any response from the audience is excellent, and but there is a lot of pleasure, obviously, when you write a play. A lot of work has gone into that. So by the time you get that up, that's like amazing. But
going to ask you about the title of one of your plays, which intrigues me, the Eric Clapton Breakfast Club. Can you tell us about that one?
Yes, that was a play that I really enjoyed writing. Oddly, bizarrely, right after the first World Trade Center fiasco in '93, this whole story came about, and basically it's a one-act play that did extremely well about a woman and her two daughters, and the daughter somehow ends up meeting Clapton backstage, and the story goes on and on with the mother trying to have the daughter not go out on a date with Clapton because, fictitiously, this is fiction too, this is not true, she had had a one-night stand with Clapton, and this little girl was the love child. So, I mean, it was all total fiction. It's not Eric Clapton's story at all. But it was a good sort of romp, breakfast club romp between women. And that was what that was called.
How would the legalities of something like that go? Would you have to run that by Eric first before it went to stage?
Well, no, actually, because he's public domain, and it was fiction, so it wasn't as if I said anything was true. And I have another singer-songwriter friend named Larry Kerwin who did something similar on the Beatles. It was, his take was as a play about if the Beatles never really teamed up, and he followed their lives as if they never became the Beatles. And it's I can't remember what it was called, something Liverpool Fantasy, I think it was called. It was hilarious. But I did meet Clapton later. I didn't mention the play, but something that I enjoyed writing.
Can the different types of writing that you do influence each other? For example, when you're writing a song, can the playwright in you start to take over and vice versa?
Yes, absolutely. Like for songs, I mean, in songs and plays or musicals are usually moving stories forward. So if you're writing a play, then if you're going to put a song into it, you would have that be the next logical, emotional connection to the next scene. And one song can influence a whole play, you know. For instance, there's a Broadway show right now in the city called Wicked, and the playwright took the whole stance of what the backstory was fictitiously of Wizard of Oz and wrote this amazing musical. So they totally lend themselves any which way you know, and someone who could hear a song, my song, or I heard somebody's song could lend me a whole idea of, well, this is what I think it's about. So.
I read on your website where you received 10 consecutive ASCAP Popular Panel Awards. Can you explain what they are and what that type of recognition means to you?
That recognition is something they give to singer-songwriters they feel that have done extraordinary work who didn't make huge monetary benefits from the commercial world. So let's say if you were Britney Spears, for example, she wouldn't get that award because she's out there making tons and tons of royalties off her music, but they acknowledge singer-songwriters who they think are worthy of recognition who might not be getting that kind of, you know, top 40 top airplay. And that's what it's sort of like the under the radar artists that they admire, but you're not, you know, a big moneymaker.
And just before I let you go, Taylor, can you tell us about your current band and the background of some of the players there?
Well, my current band is fantastic, as all my band incarnations have been, but the current band that I had put together for Spiritual Gangster, which came out, is a guy named John Caron, who plays both with Pink Floyd and David Gilmour. GE, the bass player sometimes can be anyone from Tony Shanahan from who plays with people like Patti Smith, or a guy named Paul Asola, who's played with so many artists I can't even mention. If I start to mention one, there's too many I won't mention that will get upset. A guy named Alex Alexander, who's played on every record pretty much, who also has played with Dido and Eminem, and then a pedal steel player who comes in, Mike Nolan, and that is my current lineup. But I've had the great luck because of GE to have the likes of people like Andy York, who plays with Mellencamp, to an amazing girl harpist named Erin Hill. Let's see, who else has been there? T-Bone Walk, who recently passed away. We're just about to do a tribute for him here in the city. An amazing musician. He played on my record, so I've been really lucky. I always have the A-list for studio musicians, and I thank my lucky stars for that every day.
Erin Hill was an interesting inclusion. What inspired you to incorporate into your music an instrument like the harp, which is not, I guess, commonly recognised in contemporary music?
No, it's not. It was a really... I was playing a gig in the city, and I saw her. She was playing before me, and I just looked at her and watched her play, and I thought, oh, we have to play together. So I went over to her house, and I brought my music, and she is an amazing talent herself and good singer, and we started playing, and we put this amazing eclectic, it was harp, pedal steel, and oftentimes we didn't use drums with this, GE on guitar, me on guitar, and bass, but a lot of times not even bass, and it was just the most amazing sound. So the record Vapor, which is what she was all over, had that incarnation, and it's really special, I think. So.
And just finally, upcoming plans. What's in your books for the rest of this year?
Well, this year I'm working now on a one-woman show based around the idea of the spiritual gangster, which will feature some of the songs that are on my most recent collection, but also songs that I wrote from the very beginning, and I'm trying to sort of tell my life story in my way of what it meant to me to become a coined phrase, spiritual gangster, and starting off with growing up in Baltimore, Maryland, where I kicked it all off. So that's what I'm working on right now, and hopefully doing shows coming up. My main people, GE and John, are about to go out on the road with Roger Waters for a big tour, so we'll see what I can fit in between. Yeah.
Wow. Busy times ahead.
Busy times ahead, exactly. But that never stops me.
Tremendous. Hey, Taylor, thanks so much for taking the time out today in the middle of obviously some domestic times there.
Yes, I'm really sorry about that. And I'm